Jemele Hill, Caitlyn Clark. Wow, Jemele Hill criticizing a white person? Color me shocked. Just kidding. We all know Jemele Hill is racist. Always be racist to white people at all times, according to Jemele Hill's mind. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Jemele Hill embarrassing herself with her take of Caitlyn Clark getting more attention in the mainstream media compared to black athletes. Remember, Jemele Hill has had a history of being a first-class race baiter, so this is definitely nothing new for her to say when talking about white people. According to Jemele Hill, she believes that Caitlyn Clark received more credit than she deserved for the growth of women's basketball, particularly at the college level. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. How stupid was Jemele Hill's take on Caitlyn Clark? On a scale of 1 to 10, obviously this one is going to be at a 10. It was extremely stupid as to what Jemele Hill had to say about Caitlyn Clark, because a lot of what she said was spewed out with lies. I have a nickname that I would like to share with you guys for Jemele Hill, which is Jemele the Devil Hill. And the reason why I call Jemele Hill the devil is because of the fact that she is one of the worst human beings that someone could see on the planet of Earth. And also she spews out lies just so she can continue her race baiting agenda. We all know that Jemele Hill is all about promoting racism within the black community, where she can go ahead and talk about how black people are superior and how they need to have more rights more than anybody else on the planet, and that they need to get more coverage compared to white players. We all know that Jemele Hill does not have the best interest in the sports fans' hearts. Remember when Jemele Hill used to be on Sports Center, and when she was on ESPN, she would used to spew out her talk about Donald Trump every day. I remember she used to talk about how Donald Trump was the most racist man on earth. Orange man bad. But you always look at how she would promote her agenda of Donald Trump being racist, and that we needed to do whatever it took to cancel Donald Trump from the president of the United States job, when honestly she should have been focusing that energy on Joe Biden. To be honest, Joe Biden is the real racist out there, not Donald Trump, but that's another discussion for another day. When you look at what Jemele Hill was saying about Caitlyn Clark, it was so clear that she was not objective. And honestly, the only reason why I was even aware of this happening was because I was reading Outkick yesterday, and then I saw this article about Jemele Hill, and I was thinking, Jemele Hill, she hasn't been relevant in years. Let me see what's going on with Jemele Hill. So I go ahead and click the article, and then I see Jemele Hill being an absolute race baiter about Caitlyn Clark, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what is Jemele Hill even thinking about? I mean, how could she be possibly saying that about Caitlyn Clark? This is the same woman that has been crying about lack of women's sports coverage all the time, and now that people are covering women's sports, now she has an issue, because obviously her anger never ends. When in doubt, be racist. Obviously Jemele Hill wants to be a hardcore feminist, and being a feminist is not good enough when supporting Caitlyn Clark. Now it's, it has to be a black woman. And I also saw this from USA Today as well. They were talking about how the women's college basketball game needs to be revolving around black folks, not white folks. And they were talking about how Caitlyn Clark was bad for business, but actually that couldn't be further from the truth. And I saw what Jemele Hill was also saying about Caitlyn Clark being not that impactful in sports media, which is just false. You obviously look at ratings at the college level, they've never been higher than what it is, because Caitlyn Clark is a mainstream media star when it comes to college basketball, particularly in women's sports. You look at how Caitlyn Clark has been phenomenal. I always call her female Steph Curry. I know some people are now going to take that literally and say that she should be playing in the NBA because she could beat Steph Curry one-on-one in a basketball game, but obviously that's not going to happen. Follow the science, and it's pretty clear that the men are going to absolutely destroy Caitlyn Clark when they are playing on a basketball court together. And you always notice how the Democrats, they always talk about how they say follow the science until it no longer fits their narrative. Remember the COVID vaccine, where they were talking about, you have to follow the science, which means you have to get vaccinated. And look, I'm not here to tell people whether to get vaccinated or not for the COVID vaccine, but what I am here to share you guys about is the fact that the mainstream media has been absolutely inconsistent when it comes to making their points. And they talk about following the science when it comes to the COVID vaccine, but then all of a sudden when it comes to women's sports, they don't want to follow the science anymore. And now they say that women can compete against men, and that gender doesn't matter, and that gender is a choice. And obviously that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, have we lost common sense in this country? Look, I'm not saying that women can't play sports at a high level. They obviously can. Just look at the data, look at the facts. But when you compare them to men in the NBA, that ain't going to happen. Those guys are going to absolutely destroy Caitlyn Clark when playing basketball at a professional level. You look at how Caitlyn Clark is so small out there on the basketball court that I'm thinking about how Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to do a posterizer dunk on her. I mean, if you put Caitlyn Clark against Giannis Antetokounmpo, you might as well just give Giannis Antetokounmpo the 2 free points, because obviously Caitlyn Clark is not going to have a good defense to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo. Could you imagine Giannis Antetokounmpo driving to the rim and absolutely destroying Caitlyn Clark? We all know Jemele Hill is a race baiter in that she says a lot of stupid things. Apparently, she went on an interview on Up Rocks. Now you guys are going to ask me, what the hell is Up Rocks? Well, apparently, Up Rocks is a left-leaning website where they favor the Democratic Party, and that's where Jemele Hill did her interview. I'm not going to read you guys the whole interview because it's too long to read, but I'm going to read you guys two parts of the interview. I'll start off with the first quote right here. So it says, quote, "But I think the media is treating it as if there's just this anomaly that's come along, and all we have to do is pay attention to an anomaly and not overall the fact that the sport, before she really began catching the eye of the national public, was gaining a tremendous amount of traction. Everything about the sport has been trending up for years now. It did not just start with Caitlyn Clark, but they're treating it like it did. And so it's already creating a false narrative that is doing the public a disservice." What, Jemele Hill? What the hell was that? You just spewed out a bunch of lies right there. Man, before Caitlyn Clark was there, ain't nobody care about women's basketball. Now that Caitlyn Clark is there, now people do care about a little bit. You look at ratings on television, obviously people care about Caitlyn Clark a ton. I don't think the success of women's college basketball is going to be maintainable, but I think that Caitlyn Clark was able to attract a huge following of women's basketball because of the fact that her play style is extremely exciting and that she is basically female Steph Curry. She can shoot the three ball like no other at the women's level. And you also look at how she's an elite passer of the basketball. I mean, she is the true definition of a superstar player at the collegiate level. And also the thing with Caitlyn Clark in general is she's pretty likable as well. Yes, I know she complains a lot to the referees. I know some people are going to tell me in my DMs on Instagram that, hey, why are you praising Caitlyn Clark so much when all she does is talk trash to the referees all game long and cry for fouls all the time? But look, Caitlyn Clark is not perfect. No athlete is perfect whatsoever, which is why you shouldn't idolize any athlete to begin with whatsoever, or look at athletes as role models. You need to be looking at your parents and your teachers as your role models. Obviously, you cannot be looking at athletes as your idols, because if you do that, then you create athletic idolatry, and then you're going to have a distorted view of society. She's talking about how Caitlyn Clark was not the reason why people are now caring about women's basketball. But if we're being flat out honest, could you even name another superstar at the women's level outside of Caitlyn Clark before Caitlyn Clark existed? The answer to that is no, because nobody can list it. I know some people are going to say, oh, what about Brittany Griner? But we know more about Brittany Griner for being arrested in Russia more than actually being a great basketball player. I mean, look, Brittany Griner has definitely had a productive career as a WNBA player. But if we want to talk about Brittany Griner as to what most people know about her, they don't know her for basketball. They know her for acting stupid and getting herself arrested in Russia. And obviously, Joe Biden was an absolute idiot to trade in a psychopathic criminal for Brittany Griner just so she could return back to the U.S. Obviously, Jemele Hill is willing to spew out lies. There's a reason why I call her the devil. It's because of the fact that she is willing to do whatever it takes to promote her evil narrative. And let me go ahead and now read this other quote from Uprock. So it says, quote, "If you look at WNBA ratings or women's college basketball ratings, they have been exploding for at least the last 7 to 10 years, or I would even say 5 to 7 if you want a shorter window. And so it's been proven that people really enjoy the sport. They enjoy the stars in the sport, but they enjoy the sport itself. And I'm not completely convinced that the media understands the difference." Oh, you're wrong, Jemele Hill. The media definitely understands the difference. What do you mean, Jemele Hill? I don't understand what you're talking about whatsoever. What do you mean ratings in the WNBA have increased in the last 7 to 10 years? Are you kidding me? Ratings have been horrible in their products. Sure, they might have gone a little bit up since then, but it's not like the ratings in the WNBA have been phenomenal since then. They're still horrible, and that they can't even crack 1 million viewers. And then you got Jemele Hill talking about, oh yeah, the WNBA, their ratings have grown big time, and that people in general are just caring more about women's sports. But actually, that couldn't be further from the truth. I can tell you that people like watching Caitlyn Clark play, but people don't care to watch women's basketball. They're not going to go ahead and invest watching 2.5 hours in watching a women's college basketball game. I'm only willing to watch women's college basketball because of Caitlyn Clark, because we all know that Caitlyn Clark is a phenomenal basketball player. But can you say that about the rest of the WNBA or the rest of women's college basketball? Because you can't really say that about any other player outside of maybe Angel Reese, because Angel Reese is a baller for LSU. She's been phenomenal big time for them. But outside of those folks, it's not exactly like women's college basketball has gone through the roof in terms of major interest. Sure, they're attracting more viewers than ever before, but do we really think this growth is going to be sustained long term? I have high doubts about that. But we all know Jemele Hill is willing to lie in order to get a check from woke welfare. We all know that Jemele Hill is the leader of being woke, and that she wants to promote her woke narratives, and that she wants to bring up everything about racism, and that when you can't bring up racism, you'll bring up feminism, or vice versa. If you can't bring up feminism, you'll bring up race. And that's exactly what she's doing right now with Caitlyn Clark. And obviously Jemele Hill was dead wrong. There was nothing that she said that was even factual actually true whatsoever. It was an awful take of Caitlyn Clark. That is undeniable to me. So that is why Jemele Hill's take on Caitlyn Clark was absolutely stupid, as her statement was filled with blatant lies all over the place. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking. Like the video and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Dustin Tran and at Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter at Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.